I think we're live. I've got my setup here. Sorry if my voice is a little low. Sounds okay. Say hi if you're watching. Let me know who's tuned in. I've got my other YouTube account on the computer so that I can see what's going on. there's me poking in with my other one. So if you read the title, today we have a fun little mission. I want to do a painting. I want to do a painting for a class coming up here. I'd like to do kind of a winter themed painting, and I'd like it to be a bird, preferably. And so I've got a bunch of sketches set up here for now, but I'm not sure what I want to do. So I was going to see if you guys would be willing to help me figure out what painting to do. Ooh, excuse me for a second. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry about that. So once you're in, say hi and let me know who's watching, and we can kind of get cracking on this. I might come up with a few more examples here before I do anything too crazy. But right now I'm looking into cedar waxwings. I just want it to be a wintry bird. And my friend Jim DeLuco, he paints a lot, or he takes a lot of photos of birds, and he's given me permission to use any of them that I want. And so I'm kind of digging through his Instagram. James F. DeLuco on Instagram. Here, let me write it down so you guys can see what it is. Instagram, James F. DeLuco. For bird reference. So I'm kind of digging through here. He's got swans. I don't know that I want to do a swan. He's got, like I said, the cedar waxwing, which I think is really interesting. I think it's got a cool graphic look to it almost. But I've got to find some examples of them. Oh, here's another photo that he's got that I really like. So let's try to get some kind of thumbnail in here. The painting is going to be roughly the size of this paper. I've got my paper here. So this is how big the painting's going to be. So it's a little smaller than this paper that I'm working from. But I want to get a thumbnail down so that I kind of know where I'm going. So let's try to draw this in here. What he's got photo-wise. Yep, there we go. I think these guys are really neat looking. Like I said, I love this big dark stripe they've got on their face right there. I think it's really cool. But that could be an option. So far, the ones I like the most are this blue jay here. I think this owl is cool. There's a couple robins. I don't know that I like any of these thumbnails of robins, but I think a robin would be fun. And I like these guys of the wax wings. Probably this one I like better. Out of the cardinals, I'd say maybe this one is my favorite, but this is cute too, where he's looking right at us. I tried to do a flying one, but I wasn't really feeling it. The owl looks cool. Thank you. I assume you mean the flying one. That's one of my favorites so far. I'm trying to pick one that I can teach a class of, though. So the only thing that concerns me about the owl is that it may be too difficult to teach in a class. That's what I'm concerned about. I have pulled up here on my phone common Florida winter birds. And I'm kind of looking through here and seeing what I've got. Eastern bluebirds, those are cute. Let me pull one of those up. Yeah, those are cute. They would be pretty easy, and that would make for a fun painting. So let's draw one of those or one or two of those in. So eastern bluebird. Could be our winner for a class. These are one of the fun ones that's like really round in the winter time. And then he's got a little beak poking with his head. Little tiny tail. So it would be blue all here on his face, and then a little bit of blue back here, and then he'd have a bunch of orange on his chest. So blue head, orange, and then white. And so it would be kind of a very lightly colored background. I think that would be kind of cute as well. Because I want it to be a winter bird, but I don't want it to be a Christmas painting, if that makes sense. I think I want to leave that available. You know, I don't want to say, oh, this is only a good painting to you if you celebrate Christmas. So I want it to be kind of wintry, because it'd be easy to do a cardinal on a Christmas tree with some mistletoe in his mouth, but that's very Christmas centric, and I don't think that I need to be if I can avoid it. So I'm just looking at other winter birds. Anhinga, not really a fan. Pelicans, whatever. Caracara? Really? That's cool. That's not very wintry, though. Great blue herons, great egrets, green herons. These all live here all the time. Moorhen. Mourning dove. I could do a mourning dove. I don't think this website knows what it's talking about. Mourning dove would be fun, though. So let's try that. I'll do vertical. So mourning dove. They're the ones that are have the really pretty calls. Big chest. That would be kind of cool. Pretty simple. A lot of gray. I'd have to work with a lot of gray here. But that's a possibility. I'm still leaning toward the Blue Jay right now, I think, is what I'm leaning toward. Looking through. Yeah, like all of these other ones that were on this website that I'm looking, I don't really care about. Winter migratory birds of Florida. Here we go. Palm warbler, don't care. Yellow rumped warbler, kind of pretty, but it's not very recognizably wintry. I think that's the problem that I'm running into. Because like all of these ones, pintail duck, yeah, sure. Merganser, those are pretty. Okay, I'm going to add a merganser to our list. Oh, I like the hooded merganser. Oh yeah, hooded merganser, that's a winner. Are you sticking with Florida or general winter birds? Mostly catch up. I don't think it has to be Florida, but I will be teaching this class in Florida, so that's kind of where I'm starting from. But no, not specifically just Florida birds. Like the robins that I used are not even American robins. These are the European robins. The American robins have a really dark head. The European ones are kind of soft. Hooded merganser. So this is just kind of be like a throwaway. Not throwaway, but like I'm not likely to teach this for this class. But I think it's cool enough that I want to give it a shot here. They're really neat looking, so I think it's a type of duck, maybe. So it's got like a big black hood, which makes sense. Hooded merganser. It is neat looking. I'll give it that much. And it's got like black wings. Super cool, but I think it would be too hard. So that was fun to draw, but I don't think I could do that as a class. Ketchup, if you've got any ideas of birds that would make for a good winter painting, let me know. I'm going to give it one more look. No, I don't want one that's just names. I would like to see pictures. I could do a woodpecker. I think I can make that pretty wintry because it's in a tree, right? But which one do I want? Hairy woodpecker, downy, red belly has the most striking head. So let's go with that. And I definitely see them in Florida, although it's not necessary. Let's see here. Red-bellied woodpecker. I've taken some cool photos of red-bellied woodpeckers as well. Yeah, I'm not finding... This would be too hard of a class, I think, because they have the funky colors. So, like, we'll draw it in. I don't know how I would do... I don't know if I want to do this vertically or horizontally yet, so that's why I haven't drawn in the box first. Normally I would draw the box in before anything else, but I want to see it before I decide the orientation that I want it to be in. You see, like, definitely cool bird. And so this guy's got a red top of his head, and then his wings are striped. So like they're solid black, and then they've got white stripes running through them, which would be fun to paint for me, but I don't know how fun it would be to teach a bunch of people how to do. That's my problem. I've got to decide if this is a... And so this, I would do it this way. I got to decide if this is a teachable class, because it could be a fun painting, and that doesn't mean it's a teachable painting. And that's kind of what I'm struggling with right now. But once we decide on one, I'm gonna do it. So maybe I'll just do one or two, because it's for a class, so it should be pretty quick. So I'm gonna start with this blue jay. I like this guy a lot. I think this will be a fun painting. So let's start with that. So I'm just going to pull up some reference of blue jays so that I can see their feather patterns. And we will whip out, whoa, hello. We will whip out our piece of paper. So there, we got that. This is just some standard watercolor paper. I'm not even sure what brand it is, but I'm going to kind of get it centered-ish, and we'll start with our blue jay. So I'm going to go very lightly, obviously, because I want to preserve the integrity of my paper. So most birds can be simplified down to a teardrop in a circle and then a tail sticking out the bottom. I liked in my sample that the tail stuck out of the bottom. So right now it's not. So I'm actually going to make this a little bigger because I thought that looked cool in my example piece. And so we'll start there. Okay. There's a start. We've got a pretty simple beak. That leads to an eye here. So their eye is kind of oval shaped. It's not quite a circle. And then one of my favorite things to do is to make a little fuzz here where the beak connects. How's that look? Pretty good. Yep, pretty good. And so then he'll have darkness here that sticks out a little bit like that. And then comes through his eyeball a tad. And then we've got a big dark bit here that comes down through like this. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. What else we got in terms of coloring? I'm gonna pull up the back side of it. Got a lot of pictures of the front, but this is a painting of the back of a blue jay. Yep. Okay. So on the back side, we've got obviously his wings are going to go here. And I'm just kind of looking to see what we're dealing with here. I'm also checking my example. And so then we would have some striping in his wings. There's all kinds of fun stripy details in his wings. And his tail will also be striped. Okay. That's pretty cool so far. What do you think about this so far? I think it's looking kind of good. I always love when, so it's going to be sitting on a branch. Do I want to do any branching off? No, I think that's fine. I always love when the bird sits with one of its legs way out. I think that looks cool. So we're going to do that here because I don't have to do very much. It's just, am I going to do a sketch? So I'm going to paint it as well. So this is for a watercolor class. So I'm going to do a watercolor painting of it. But I got to sketch it in first so that I know what's going on. So there's my sketch. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to sit back a little. I don't know if I like the leg. What do you think? What do you think, Ketchup? Do you like the leg sticking out? Or anybody else who's watching? There's 3 of us, so there's one other person watching. But what do you think of the leg sticking out here? Do you think I should leave it in? Or do you like it stuck out like that? So the more I look at it, the less I like this leg. So I'm going to erase it for now. Then we'll see what you think. Looks pretty good. So versus this. Yeah, I think I like it without the leg. I said I like when the leg sticks out, and I typically do, but I think in this case, I want to just make it as simple as possible for the class. Yeah, so I'm going to paint it now. let me grab my painting supplies. I forgot to get water. I got to get a cup of water for myself and some paper towels. I should have thought about that ahead of time, but I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry. Okay, so here's my water cup. I've got my paper towels here as well. And so then let's grab my brush, or brush is plural. So there's those two round brushes, and then I'm gonna need a flat brush as well. Which I've got sitting here somewhere. Where did I put my flat brush? I've normally got one sitting right up on this desk in the pocket, but I don't see one in the pocket. It must have fallen off or something, and I can't find it. That's fine. I've got other brushes. Not to worry. Okay. Here is a flat brush for me. That's just going to help me to get the colors down when that time comes. What else do I need? Well, I need my watercolors. So I'm trying to decide what watercolors I want to use. So I've got a couple options. When I teach the class, I'll be teaching it with lighter set. So maybe I will grab that. Yeah, so I'll be teaching the class with this set. It's semi-moist watercolors. Nothing crazy. So it'll be hopefully a real life class. I'm still working, you can see I've used this in a class before. I'm still working out the logistics. But I could do this as an online class if that's something that you'd be interested in. So I teach painting classes. That's what I do for work. And I have the availability to do them online. Obviously, I just have to ship materials to you. But I also do private ones in home. I'm just going to wet this paper towel here and clean off my palette. See, it's nice. I can just get it wet and it comes right off. Then I use a dry towel and I can make sure everything is clean. But yeah, catch up. I'm gonna do probably a physical class. But I have to work the logistics out still. So I haven't completely decided that yet. Okay, so there's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use these brushes and these paints with this cup of water, and we're going to throw something together here. So when I do this class, it'll be a painting class and not a drawing class. And so I'm going to actually make a stencil for this guy so that I can just stencil it onto everybody's paper. Nice and easy. And I have in the past done where I tape down the sides, but I think for this painting that it would be more interesting if we didn't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and not do that. So to make it kind of wintry, we want a kind of blue-gray background. Obviously this is a blue jay, so if the background is too blue, it's not gonna look right. So I'm gonna go in with blue and a little bit of brown. So my black in these palettes is not very good. So I have to rely on mixing blue and brown together to get a darker gray color, or even my black color. But you see I've mixed kind of a dull blue, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in here. Kind of haphazardly. I want kind of a random edge here. You can see it's very light. But that's fine because we can work in layers. That's the strong suit of watercolor, is that you work in layers. So mix my black and brown, gives me a gray, or my blue and brown gives me a gray. That might be a little too much brown. But that's one of the things, if you watched that video on my channel where I talk about making a new black, one of the nice things is when I mix it like this, when I mix my grays and blacks like this, I don't have to have the exact same color every time. So it actually gives me a little bit of variation, which is pretty cool. So we're going to go in with a little bit of darker color. And so I think I want my light to come from this side. So I'm going to darken up down here a little bit more. And since the watercolor is still wet, I can just kind of let it spread out and do its thing here. You see I'm not being super precise. Okay, we're gonna go down here. Pretty dark. Yep. This is looking pretty good so far. Maybe I'll throw a little bit of purple in here. Just for fun. All right. Doesn't have to be crazy. But I think we can do a cool technique here too. So watch this. Since I've got most of what I want down, I can come through now. I'm going to dry my brush off, or wipe all the paint off of it. And I can come through now with wet fingers and go. Maybe we'll do a little bit with the brush too. Go. And so what that's going to do is it's going to pull up some paint from, or some pigment from the paint, and it will kind of give it a snow effect, hopefully. That's what it's supposed to do, at least. I can also dab my paper towel in spots, and it'll give a similar effect. Cool. So there's the background. I gotta let it dry. While we're waiting for a minute, this Friday, which is, what is this Friday? The 9th? The 7th, sorry. This Friday, which is the 7th, I will be at Art Walk in downtown Fort Myers. It'll be from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Friday night. And I'll have a booth down there where I'll be selling my paintings, and you will be able to come see me and check out my stuff. So if you are interested in that, come check me out. I'll be down there all night, 5 to 9 p.m. So basically, right now I'm waiting for this to dry because I need it to, for the sake of the rest of the painting. I'm gonna find a good reference for my colors here. Just digging through all the references to see if I can find a good blue jay. Because, you know, every bird's a little different, so I might find one with a pattern that I really like, and that's kind of what I'm going for here. Yeah. Looking through. Just finding something I can use for reference on the pattern, one that I like a lot. You gotta kind of, it's a skill to be able to find good reference photos anymore, because all of this stuff is so screwed up with AI photos everywhere. And so half of it's not real, which is so annoying when you're looking for references. Yep. Let me see what I can do with these references. Yeah, okay. Something like this will work. Okay. That'll work for me. So, first thing that I want to do actually is, I don't think this would show like that, because his shoulder comes here, so it's actually going to go like this to his shoulder. Yeah. And so then we've got shoulder here, and then the wings start So this is dry enough now that we can get on to the next part. First thing I'm going to do is put this guy away, because it's good for filling in the background, but if I want more control, I'm going to need a round brush. So that's what I'm going to use here. And we're going to use a very similar color to what we were just using, actually. But it's going to be a little more blue this time. So I'm going to pull it out of here. We're going to go blue and a little purple. And this is going to be for kind of the main downy feathers. So he's got a white around his face. And so this can be made blue. And you see, I'm not worried about coloring it all the way in or anything like that. I'm just trying to make nice marks. Marks that make me happy. Oh, a little too much purple there. Okay, so I'm going to fill this area in with my purple, purpley blue color. Same with up here. Okay, that's pretty nice so far. So one thing I can do is with a pretty clean brush, I can come through here and pull up sections. Okay, so there's that. So the rest of the blue feathers themselves are actually a little teal. And so we got to take that into account when we do that part. But then in terms of his face, the white feathers, we have to make a gray. And so like I said earlier, blue and brown is how I'm going to make my gray, because my black is not very good. And it's white, so in order to make white look like white, you got to leave a lot of it untouched. So I'm going to come through here with a very watered down. Pick my shadow areas, or at least the ones that I think are going to be shadow, and kind of work with that. And so you see this is still pretty dark, but I can come through here with no water on my brush, or no ink on my brush, or pigment, and I can blend these out. And that allows me to pick some of this back up where I think it needs to be softened. And once I add all the darks around that, that's going to look really white. So his beak is a darker gray, so we can use this gray while we still got it. We can start to do his eyeball and his face a little bit. Right? Because I gotta sneak up on it. I gotta work in layers, like I've been saying. So we can work in layers and catch up to that in a minute. Now we've got some white feathers here. And this is where it's easy to get stuck and try to do too much. And so we're going to let it be abstract in the feather section here. So I needed a little bit of a green it's not a green, but it's more of a tealy blue. Like this is what we want, I think. So let's try that here. Yeah, perfect. It's exactly what I'm looking for. So what this is it's kind of iridescence from these feathers. So it's still blue, but it's not quite the same blue as the blue of the body. And that's on purpose, because that's how it looks in real life. So we'll save some white here. Same with this side. Save some white here. He's gonna have some white on the tips of his feathers, but then a lot of this is gonna be blue. And so with that teal underneath, I can come through with my regular blue and it'll make it pop a little nicer. And you see, there's just enough of a difference here that it's gonna make sense to our eyes what we're looking at. So I'm lightening this section up a little. Okay, and then we've got some black. So once again, I'm gonna make a dark gray with my blue and brown, sorry, not blue and purple, blue and brown. And I can also do this later with a pen as well, but I want to do as much work with watercolors as I can. And I'm gonna let it blend out like this. I'm not worried about it. And so we're just giving him stripes on his feathers here. And you see, we're not doing anything incredibly confusing. We're just indicating that we know what's going on, just enough so that when people look at it, they're going to assume that we knew what we were doing. That's the secret to being a good artist, is tricking people into thinking you know what you're doing. They don't tell you that, but you don't have to be super talented at the physical parts always. You can be a good artist without knowing exactly how to do everything all the time. Because we know in our head what a blue jay looks like. And so I can kind of fudge around a little bit and we'll still know what's going on. So I lost the white in there, but that's fine, because I can come back in with my white pen later. One of the things I want to do here is give it a little more blue. So this is a lot of blue in this painting, but it's a blue jay at winter time, so it's to be expected. Okay. And so that's looking pretty good. Let's do our branch. Branch is, you guessed it, gray, but I'm gonna make it a little more brown, on the brown side of gray, just to give us some interest here. So one base tone. And then I can come in like this let the paint do the work for me. Okay, now we're gonna make a nice dark color. More pigment this time. That way I can darken up some of these dark areas. And you'll see when I start doing this, the bird's really going to start to pop. The further we get with pushing the contrast, the more interesting this painting is going to look. Okay, so there's that. I'd say that's pretty good. And so I could stop here, but I always like to add a little bit more to my paintings. And so what I'm going to do is make myself some more details with a pen. In a second, hang on. I gotta add, it gets a little dark under here too. Okay, so I'm gonna go back in here with a pen, black and white pens, to make some more details for myself. When I teach the class, I will use these guys. So let's try this one first. And then I also have some white markers. And I need it to be dry to do this. So let's start somewhere where it is, which is down here. I don't have to do the whole thing, but if I add some details to this branch, it'll help it to stand out. I don't have to do too much. You see how that just kind of adds a little bit of detail without going crazy. Same thing here with the tail. I can add in some details to the tail for myself. And that's going to help me to mark off some of these big stripes here as well. Not quite dry everywhere yet, obviously, so that's fine. Okay, let's give me some outline here. And there you can see this is helping me to detail. I don't have to do a whole hell of a lot of work here because I did the work in the watercolor phase to kind of set some of these ideas into motion, essentially. So I can kind of work on what I want, how I want to do it. We're playing off of each other here. Me and the painting, that is. So we got basically a solid black eye. So I will do that for now, and then I can come back later. And I can do some white. I'm just gonna color some stuff in here. Yeah, I'm just having a good time. I know there's that there. Right? Okay, let's do some coloring in here. I'm going to put some lines here in between. And we've got a nice candidate for a strong line there. Then on the back side, see, I'm not being super precise. I can let it be scratchy because it wants to be scratchy. Okay, and now what I can do is I can come in here with my black pen and I can color in some of these stripe details. Okay, so now I can kind of jump back and forth between my colored pencils and brushes. We've done most of the work now, and now it's time to refine. So I'm going to make another nice dark black. And we can follow along these pen lines. And give our bird some nice dark stripes on his wings. Same with here. We can do some of this and some of that. You know, this is kind of, we're just playing around now, getting something that we're happy with. So, a lot of stripes. Too many? Maybe, but that's fine. Who cares, right? We're just here for fun. Now I want to add some definition to up here. And so what I can do is I'm going to take my blue and darken up this section and darken up over here and a little bit here, kind of indicate some shape. You know, the light's coming from this side, so I can darken up the face, the front side of his crest. I can darken up down here. It's a little too much pigment, but I can get back right into it and pull it out, right? Let's put some more of my black in his eyeball. You see, now that I've got a few base tones down, it's pretty easy for me to darken things up. Right, same thing here. We can work with it to give ourselves something interesting. Okay. So now I have my white marker, and I can come in here and add some fine details to my dry sections. So we gotta let some of it dry first. So where do I got a dry section? I've got dry here. You see, this isn't anything crazy. It's not super bright, but what it will do is it'll give me some more variation. And that's all that I'm really looking for. So we can do some of this here, right? We can do a little highlight on his beak. We can do a highlight in his eye. Too bad that's the wrong side. We can do a highlight in his eye. Easy fix, right? We can do little spots and slices and splotches and whatever we want. That's interesting. That's interesting. So he's got white. He's got some white feathers in here. So why don't we add some white feathers in? Now that we've done all of this black, I can come in with my white pen and it will stand out really nicely for me. And then here I'm cleaning it off in between. So that way I don't get my white pen too dirty in the process. And you see, we may have to layer it a couple times in some spots. Okay. So there's that. We can do a little love here. One of the things I really like to do is on my highlight side. Sorry, not on my highlight side, on my shadow side. I like to give a little rim light, which you'll see occasionally. So that's hard to tell right now. I've got another pen here that's a little brighter of a white. And I can darken my background in the class itself to make this available. And you see, I'm not perfectly copying the wing patterns here. I'm just getting something that I like. And that's really all that I'm concerned with, is getting something that I like out of this. Yeah, very cool. Are you painting this one because this is the one you're going to teach, or just painting it to paint it? So Ketchup, I think I'm going to teach this one. So I will make this, and then I will trace it, and I will give this class to a group of people. Hopefully soon. Thank you, I appreciate it. But I've got to make it before I can teach it. Especially for these classes, because I like to make a stencil for the class, because it's a painting class, right? It's not a drawing class. And so I don't expect everybody to be able to draw a bird so that we can paint it. And so I will then come through and trace this onto some clear plastic. So I'm trying to see if I have any right here. But I'll trace it onto some clear plastic and make it into a stencil that I can then stencil onto their papers for them. Let me see if I can find my stencil, and it'll give me a second to walk away. So I suggest before you finish any painting that you always step back, step away for a few minutes, and let it sit without you looking at it so that you can kind of get a good idea of where you're at and if you're happy or not with it. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to step away real quick and find my vellum for tracing. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Whatever. I thought it was in here, but it's not in here. I thought it was in the other room maybe then, but I can't seem to find it in the other room either. So it is what it is. But basically, it's just a fairly thick piece of clear plastic that I will put down on top, and I will trace it onto the bird itself. Well, onto the plastic over the bird. And so then I can cut it out with a sharp knife, and I can actually use it as a stencil in the future. I don't have it with me here, but it is what it is. But yeah, this feels like a pretty good painting. I think it looks really good. I'm fairly happy with my results. So I'm going to say that I'm done. I'm just going to darken up. This little white bit was killing me. So I'd say that's pretty good. I could do, like snow, but I don't think I want to. I don't think that's going to work. What do you think, Ketchup? Do you think I should add like snow with my white pen? Or do you think I should just let it be? Let me know. I could add snow onto the branch. Like this. Looks good as is. But add stuff if you think it'll look better. Fair enough, buddy. So that's not really working for me here. So I think we'll call it then. If you like it, I like it. So we'll give it a signature and call it a day then. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it, Ketchup. You're my only viewer the whole time. Thank you so much. But we're going to go ahead and sign. I usually sign down here, but there's kind of some stuff going on. So maybe to make it interesting, we will sign it like sitting on the branch with the bird. So that's what I'll do. We'll come through here. My pen does not want to go. That's fine. I've got a nicer pen here. We'll sign it like this. And it's 2025. All right, there we go. There is our painting for an upcoming class. Ketchup, let me know if you want to do one of these. I can hook you up since you're one of the few people that's watching my channel or my live streams. I appreciate it. I can set one up for you and your family. I'm pretty sure you said you were local, right? I think you said you're related to the Lees somehow, I think is what I was told. I went to school with Philip and Cameron. Philip was one of my good buddies. I think that's how you're related. I'm pretty sure. Phil's little bro. Yeah. So I went to school with Philip. I was with Philip the only time I ever skipped school. The one time I ever did it, Philip was giving me a ride home or a ride to school, and him and I had physics in the morning, and him and I looked at each other in the car, and my brother Jacob and Cameron were in the back seat, and we were like, not really feeling like going to school, so we went to Mel's Diner instead. And we hung out all day long. The only time I ever skipped school was with him. We hung out, but it was a good time. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Pretty happy with this result. So if you like it, if you are watching this in post, because it will go live on my channel later. So if you're watching this in post and you're interested, there's going to be links in the description. You can go to my website. You can book a class with me. We can do this bird specifically, or we can make a new one for you and pick something else. But yeah, that'll do it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.